I recently stole top mixer Jaycen Joshua's mix template, and I'm not gonna lie, it got me really good results that sound something like this.
Can you do it like that? Do it like that? Do it like that? Do it like this? Do it like that? Run it right back. Do it like that? Do it like that? Do it like that? Do it like this? Do it like that? Run it right back. Do it like that? Do it like that?
So if you're a music maker wanting to take your mixes to the next level, then this video is for you. If you're new to the channel, thanks so much for stopping by. My name's Hale. I'm a Billboard charting producer-songwriter right here in Nashville, Tennessee. My music has hundreds of millions of streams and has been licensed by many of the world's leading brands and networks for TV and film. On this channel, I'm really here to help you do two things: make better music, and if you so desire, make more money from your music. So let's get into this video and start unpacking Jaycen Joshua's mix techniques so you can start leveling up your mixes. All right, so as you can hear from the preview of this song that we're going to be unpacking in the video, we kind of have drums, 808s, things that I would say are pretty characteristic of the type of music Jaycen Joshua mixes. I'm sure if you're watching this, you're probably familiar with who Jaycen Joshua is. If you're not, go give him a quick Google search. And, you know, his template is actually out there. It's been out there on YouTube, on Mix of the Masters. Jaycen's talked about it. Lots of other people have talked about it. But here's kind of the backstory of how I brought his template into this song. So I was working on this specific song, Do It Like That, for a TV and film spot. I wrote it and produced it with the girl that you hear singing this, Juliet Riley. She's amazing. And I was kind of looking to level up my drums for this sort of trap hip hop thing, and my 808s. I was kind of had my thing I was working on, but just wanted to kind of take my mix to the next level. And I was thinking of mixers who sort of work in this style, and Jaycen Joshua came to mind. So I went down the rabbit hole of Jaycen Joshua and found a bunch of videos, watched the Mix of the Masters video series that he did on his mix template, and really started digging in and unpacking what was under the hood on his mix template. So here's the cool part about this video is I'm going to show you plugin for plugin what he does specifically on drums and 808s. And you can go take the settings and copy the settings. But I want to go one level deeper with you than just kind of showing you the settings to copy, which you of course can do, and really start to teach you the concepts and principles of sort of the why behind the what of what Jaycen's doing in his template, so you can start taking maybe one or two pieces of this and bringing it into your workflow. You know, full transparency, I did steal Jaycen's template plugin for plugin, but kind of the end result was a fusion of mix moves and mix template things that I would do pretty standard on a song, as well as a combination of Jaycen's things, and it created this cool middle ground that I'm pretty happy with. So I want to roll a little bit more of the song for you. I'm going to solo up some instruments as we go, specifically the drums and 808s. And what I want you to listen for is transient, punch, impact, just general like hard-hitting mix goodness, and start listening for some of that. Then we'll start breaking down what's under the hood in this template.
Can you do it like that? Do it like that? Do it like that? Do it like this? Do it like that?
So the drums.
Do it like this, do it like that, run it right back. Do it like that, do it like that, do it like that. Making it go long, run it like a running back.
808s.
That one up in the bag, at the top where you belong, and now we're playing tag. I gotta bounce, I gotta move, I gotta walk too, stepping up the temperature. I work like that's my job. Like, let me see your hands up through the sunroof. Let me see you drop down. Swing, swing with the follow through. I gotta show you show you doing it up. Just do it like that, do it like that, do it like that, do it like this, do it like that, and I'm right back, do it like that.
Drums and 808s.
Do it like that, do it like this.
Yeah, so as you could hear there, I played a little bit more of the song, obviously, and soloed some stuff up as we went. I'm really happy with how those drums punch, the impact, the transient, same with the 808s. I think Jaycen's mixes are amazing at that, and obviously we're unpacking his template, and we got some of that good vibe going in this mix too. So let's start taking a look at the drums, seeing what's going on in Jaycen's template. All right, so if you just scan the session here, all of this stuff soloed up, you know, the 3 shades of blue, blue-green are various drums. This stuff up here in this shade of blue are kick snares. This is kind of perk, trap hats, that sort of thing. And then this blue down here is sweeps and impacts, just so you sort of know what we are taking a look at here. But here's one of the big things that Jaycen does. So he takes all of his drums, so all of this stuff right here, and I guess technically, to be fair, not the sweeps and impacts, but we're going to keep it soloed up just for context. But I guess it was all of this stuff right here, the perk, and then the main kicks and snares. So, the main body of our drum programming sound, which you can see from a programming standpoint. I went about programming this, but just bringing in a bunch of loops, splicing it up. We're talking mixes, but there's kind of a little bit of why behind the what of the production on this. But sent all of this to this series of auxes right here called C drums. So it feeds this master aux with a bunch of stuff going on to it, which then feeds this C drum aux, and there's a bunch of juju going on here that we are going to unpack and show you what's going on. So again, taking a listen to all of these drums in solo, running through these two series of auxes sounds like this. Now, so you can hear big picture what's going on, I'm going to send all of that to straight master left right, bypassing Jaycen's auxes. Now through the drum aux. Yeah, and I feel like, again, I keep saying it, transient, impact, punch. Things are just hitting a little bit harder on the instrument level before we get further down the chain, so to speak, into our mix bus. So Jaycen's pretty infamous, famous, whatever you want to say for this right here, but everything for the drums is being sent to these NLS buses. There's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 NLSs, and then a little bit of filtering. I can't remember if I added that in or Jaycen added it in, but this series of NLS buses, there's been Reddit threads dedicated to this, YouTube videos dedicated to this. People are like, is it snake oil? Is it not? And all of this hits prior to this C drum aux. So let's take a listen. Is it snake oil? Is it cool? Does it do something? I'm going to bypass all of the NLSs, but keep all the rest of the drum mix bus stuff on so you can take a listen to what that's doing. Then we'll add it in, play with it on and off, and you can be the judge on if the NLS is snake oil or not. I don't know. I think it might do something, but let's see. Here's no NLS. What do you think? Drop in the comments what you think about that. Is the NLS cool? And I will throw it out. If you like the NLS, I am actually working alongside Waves recently. So if you want to go pick up NLS or any of the other Waves plugins, go ahead and click down in the description below. There's a link to that. It does help out the channel. If you think the NLS isn't snake oil and it does a cool thing and you want to bring it into your workflow, go ahead and grab that down at the Waves link down below. It'll shoot you straight there. And again, helps out the channel. But the Waves NLS thing, it's a thing. So he does all the NLSs, and I think I've heard Jaycen talk about it and say, like, he just felt like it gave impact. He thought it was Crazy Town at first, and to me, it just kind of brought everything like a little bit more forward and sort of shaped the tone maybe a little brighter, a little more upper mid-range. I don't know. That's what I heard. I like it, though. Like, I'm a fan of it. I probably wouldn't have ever come up with it, but since we're recreating and stealing Jaycen's template, like, it's cool. I think it's cool. So we got all that NLS stuff, and then we go through these series of plugins. Let's go ahead and start with them off and then add them in one at a time so you can see what's going on. Then I'm going to give you the bigger takeaway that I really like about this template. So even if you don't have these specific plugins, you can get some value out of this with whatever plugin you do have. Or you can be like me and go get every plugin and roll with it too. There's no right or wrong here. But NLSs with a little bit of Pro Q, just taking out the super subharmonic low end. First, going into our bass, a little bit of compression. I love that it's a bass plugin on a drum aux. I love using things that, like, quote, aren't the right plugin you should be using for maybe a different application. It's also a Waves plugin, super cheap. I'm a big fan of our bass. Get this down in the description below if you want to pick it up. Here's without our bass, then we will add it in. just stacking a little bit of compression and good R bass goodness. Into Shadow Hill's mastering compressor, not really compressing, I think just barely moving the needle, if at all. Here's what this is doing. Yeah, the Shadow Hills is doing some really good work. Big fan of what that's doing. Again, you could see the needle was barely moving from a compression standpoint, but just kind of brought everything a little bit more forward. We're stacking up things that are all a bunch of small, subtle moves, but in the end, it does this aggregate nice thing. Talk about a plugin that's doing some work. This Black Box by Analog Design, this Plugin Alliance plugin, no affiliation with them, but this thing's a beast. So good. Just scroll through the presets and mess with this plugin on a whole bunch of sources if you have it. Sounds amazing. Start with this off and add it in so you can hear what this guy's doing. And I'm going to go mess with the mix up here as we roll this. I ended up at 61%, and I know Jaycen will mess with the mix to taste on whatever song he's mixing on. He's talked openly about that on Mix of the Masters and online. Let's crank the mix hard so you can like really hear what a lot of this plugin could do. Yeah, big fan of what that's doing, just kind of adding to it. Followed by this slight gate and expander. I'm going to keep it real with you guys. I have no clue what the heck that thing's even doing, but it was in the template. We rolled with it. I think, you know, so far these three, the R bass and the Shadow Hills and the Black Box are like really doing a lot of the heavy lifting. I think the NLS is doing a thing too. We'll start with all of it off here at the end and add it in one plugin at a time. Followed by a little bit of Pro Q scooping this right here. I can't remember if this is standard in Jaycen's template or if I made this move myself because I felt like there was a little too much of this, you know, 30 hertz thing, but carving out a little bit of the tubby low end that is being accentuated from the R bass and some of those other plugins. We'll start with this off and add it. Yeah, just sort of cleans it up a little bit. Into low mix Spiff right here. Spiff is an amazing plugin. Again, I have no affiliation with these guys, but love Spiff and their counterpart plugin Soothe, both absolutely incredible. Boosting transient in the low end and boosting transient in the upper mid range. Doing this good thing right here on the drums. We'll start with it off and add it. Big fan of Spiff. And then this right here was just a filter. You can see I automated some filterage on the drums over here in the bridge. This isn't standard in Jaycen's template. And then Insight 2, just a meter giving us, I think this is in Jaycen's deal too, giving us a look at the frequency width, so to speak, on the whole drum thing. But all of that is happening to the drums, and then those drums are then being sent to this all drum aux with a little bit of clip. And Jaycen uses standard clip. I didn't have standard clip, so I used JST clip, just adding a little bit more clipping to the end of the whole drum sound and the bass 808 sound. All the drums without the clipper, then adding it in sounds like this. Let's go ahead and take all the plugins, including the NLSs, off the drums, add them in one plugin at a time. Then I want to give you some of what I think the thought process and the bigger takeaway is, more than just copying the plugins, which, like I've said a couple times now, you totally can do, but we're going to try to take it one step deeper. Before we do that, though, here's taking all the plugins off, so killing all the NLSs. We'll go ahead and leave that Pro Q3 on because, or no, we'll go ahead and kill that one. We'll take the Spiff off, leave the Insight on, and take this off. So here's all the drums without the Jaycen Joshua drum mix bus sauce on it. Start adding it. Shadow Hills does a lot. We didn't quite make it to the clipper. Let's add that. Yeah, so as you could really hear, each plugin was just kind of doing a subtle thing, like pushing us 2, 3, 4% at a time, more to what I would call a good cohesive final mixed drum sound. And here's what I think is brilliant about what Jaycen's doing, and you can incorporate this regardless of what plugins you have. Effectively, what Jaycen has here, in my opinion, is a mix bus sort of setup on the drums. And full transparency, if we scroll down the session here, we also have a whole mix bus setup with all these plugins on them, you know. Spoiler alert, God Particle, Jaycen's plugin, doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, but you can see I have more plugins going on the mix bus, 4 or 5 or 6, however many plugins going on the mix bus from a mix bus mastering perspective. But prior to that, on just the drum level alone, it's almost like Jaycen has a mix bus master processing chain going on the drums. And looking ahead a little bit, same on the 808s and all of his instrument groups. And what I really like about that, and I think this is true of a lot of great mixes I hear, is really what this is doing is trying to pull out as much life, as much voltage, as much transient, as much impact as possible on the instrument level instead of having to over rely on compression, limiting, all of that on the mix bus. We want some of that on the mix bus in most cases to just pull our mix forward, make it sound more final, transient, punch, impact, all that good stuff on the mix bus level, but we're not solely relying on the final mix bus to do all of that work for us. And I think Jaycen's template does that really, really well with these plugins that he has set up here. He's effectively mastering the drums, then sending it to a final mastering chain on the mix bus. And then he's effectively, as you'll see here in a minute, mastering the 808s, pulling as much life, as much impact out of those 808s as he can, then sending that to the same mix bus that everything ultimately goes to. And I think that's the takeaway. If you want to start pulling some of Jaycen's techniques without copying the plugins into your workflow, would be send all your drums to an aux, to a group, and have your mix bus sauce going on, but try to maximize the punch and impact from each individual source sound and group of sound as you possibly can prior to the mix bus. So I think you're going to continue to see that in Jaycen's workflow. And let's go ahead and with that, start taking a look at the 808s and what Jaycen has going on the 808s. And I'm going to show you the before 808 I had before bringing in Jaycen's workflow to where I got the 808s to. And you're going to hear it's a pretty significant difference. So let's take a look at this. Here's a little bit of a reminder of what those 808s sound like in context. Cool. So those 808s are being sent to another mastering-like chain called the boom, which then ultimately feeds the monitor left-right. And the boom setup is a lot like the drum setup. We have all the NLS buses right here. We'll go through them one plugin at a time so you can hear them, but very similar to the drums, into a very similar chain of our bass, Shadow Hill's mastering compressor, our compressor, another black box on a lower mix, the expander gate that I don't know what the heck is doing, but let's say it's doing something. Pro Q not doing anything. And then Soothe, which is just effectively acting as a sidechain key. Really clever thing he's doing right here that then feeds the same drum and bass JST clipper, which then goes to the monitor left-right. But prior to even that, Jaycen does a lot of splitting off his 808s into low frequencies and high frequencies and treats those a little bit different. And that's what I did here. So if you take a look and see, I actually have 2 808 tracks that make up one 808 track. And one right here just is all of this low end thing. And I have this Avid Lo-Fi on a low mix distortion and this Neutron transient shaper. This is kind of my standard 808 starting point. Did that on the main low end 808, but then also added in this high end 808. This is straight out of Jaycen's playbook right here, taking out all the low end and just focusing on this mid range right here, adding a little bit of overdrive. You know, this is kind of a tube screamer style distortion pedal right here, into this Waves plugin, this PS22 XSplit, kind of spreading the sound a little bit. Again, if you like what this does, you can get this down in the description below. Listen to just this, though. In with the low. And part of why I went this direction is when I was working on the song, my 808 was subby. It was filling out that low end information in a really nice way, but it just wasn't cutting through the track in that upper mid range section that I needed it to speak. And that's what's so brilliant about this splitting off technique. You know, just for kicks, let me actually show you the original 808 without any of the mix sauce on it so you can hear what a difference and transformation this was. So here's bypassing all of the split off, all of Jaycen's plugins. Then we'll go one plugin at a time on his 808 mix bus. Here's my original 808. And Jaycen's 808. Let's check those in context of the track. So here's Jaycen's 808. And the original. Yeah, dude, it's like, where'd the 808 go? I feel like Jaycen's 808 mixing, like, I feel like some of this is the real magic sauce. Like, whatever that chain is, I mean, and I'm showing you what the chain is, but the splitting off, treating the low end different than the high end, then into the aux with all of the good, you know, kind of mastering sauce. It's like, oh, dang, that's doing a number to the 808s. It sounds really good. Let's bypass all those plugins that we walked through on the aux, though, to really start taking a look and listen to what's going on. So we're going to bypass the boom, as he calls it, and then bypass all of this on the boom. And then we are going to bypass the clipper. And let's listen to this with the drums too. We'll just solo up the 808 and the drums. Have a little bit of in context listen. So everything bypass. I mean, as an aside, maybe those NLSs aren't snake oil. That did a thing with everything else bypass. We'll start with it off again. Take a listen to that. Those NLSs kind of surprised me just re-listening to this song right here. That did some work. Let's keep going. Let's add the clipper. Original 808. Yeah, guys. I mean, that 808 stuff right there is some sauce for you. If you're doing anything with 808s, and like full transparency, this type of song isn't like what I do the most of. And I feel like I'm really happy with how those 808s sound. So low end information, 808 mixing hack, cheat code right there. Take those plugins, take those principles, pre-mastering, again, treating the 808s like a master before you send to your master to your mix bus. That is some sauce for you right there. And if that's cool, give this video a like, subscribe, comment, all those things, because we're here to spill the beans, show you the technique, show you the good stuff to start leveling up your mixes. As far as everything else in the mix goes, it was a lot of my own standard workflow. All the vocal mix kind of thing was my pretty standard vocal template, vocal workflow. I have some videos linked down below of me going deep on vocal production. You can see that in depth there. I didn't take Jaycen's workflow for that. It's just kind of my standard thing. And then as far as mix bus goes, we can't do a Jaycen Joshua video and not talk about our good old buddy God Particle. This is the only plugin Jaycen uses on his mix bus aside from Insight. I think he uses as his meter, which this is a great meter. I love Insight as a meter. God Particle is all Jaycen uses, and I think he just uses everything right up the gut. Everything at 0, amount 100%. I tend to like to be a little bit more than 100%, usually between 120 and 140, 150 at the most is usually where I find I live. But something like this would be pretty typical for me. And I'll tend to mess with the EQ a little bit. But as you can see, I have some other plugins going on the mix bus. There's a video, again, down in the description below. I'm giving you guys a whole bunch of stuff to go check out where I unpack my mix bus. This is a modified version of it. You know, I got the Ruby, added a little bit of OTT on low mix. I heard rumors that Serban does a little low mix OTT on his mix bus, that illustrious mix bus. So like if Serban's doing it, and I've seen Spike Stent use low mix OTT on his mix bus. So I'm like, if those guys are doing it, I'll do a little low mix OTT. You know, also because we're all just trying to be Serban, add a little bit of his mix head and a little bit more limiting. But I will say God Particle is doing the heavy lifting, the bulk of this mix bus magic. So we'll take a listen to this mix without God Particle, then add it in, and then send you on your way. Here's a little bit of this mix with no God Particle.
Do it like that, do it like that, do it like that, do it like this, do it like
And with
that.
it.
And I'm right back, do it like that, do it like that, do it like that, do it like this, do it like that. And I'm right back, do it like
I mean, enough said about that plugin, right? It's not just adding 5 dB of limiting, which it is doing, but it's doing so much more than that. If you've been around the channel at all, you know I'm a big fan of God Particle. I'm generally speaking not the biggest, like, you got to go get this plugin kind of guy. This, again, no affiliation with Cradle. I've reached out to Cradle because I've sold so much like, I've told so many people about this plugin. They never hit me back. So, you know, but just such a big fan of this plugin. Go get this plugin. It'll serve you so well. But I hope this video brought you lots of value. Again, I showed you the plugins of Jaycen, the template plugin by plugin of what exactly he's doing, but hopefully showed you some techniques and some principles that you can start bringing into your own workflow to leveling up your mixes. Again, if this video was helpful, give it a like, drop me a comment down below, subscribe to the channel. Here's some making better music. And again, here's some making better music, making better mixes, and we'll see you back here on the channel real soon.